Welcome to part 5 of the Watchman stove do-it-yourself welding kit video series. Today we're going to install the potato plate. So we already have the 6-inch tubes welded together. We already have the inner burn grate installed and the air divider plate. So we're ready to move to this step. All right, so as long as you have your main burn tube setting on a flat, level, even surface, you should be able to measure straight off of that surface and give yourself a guide mark on the highest you want the potato plate to be. And so how do you determine that? Okay, well, you don't want to be any higher than the joint where the feed tube and the main burn tube join. And the reason for that is you do not want a bunch of grease and water and all kinds of other mess building up here if this plate is too high. So ideally, you want this, the top of your potato plate, you really want it to be a little bit below this. So this is just a guideline. So let me backtrack just a little bit here. For this step, you're going to need a tape measure. A 24-inch framing square would be very handy to have. A combination square. Okay, so you can take your tape measure from here to here. And whatever that mark is, do the same here. Make a crow's foot at that same dimension. You can even come up here and measure off, your flat, level, straight surface. Make yourself another crow's foot. Then you can use your framing square. You can lay this down. You can use your framing square to connect those dots and just make sure that your framing square is square with the back of your tube, your main burn tube. And then the same thing on this side. Just transfer those same marks. Give yourself a crow's foot from your tabletop. Another crow's foot from your tabletop. And just transfer your marks. You can use a marker, pencil, soapstone, whatever you prefer to use. So you don't want to be any higher than that, and preferably you want to be lower. Okay, so now you can use either your framing square or your combination square, and you can verify that you're good on your marks by basically transposing this mark this way and transposing this mark this way, and just making sure you're reasonably close. And you'll be surprised. I mean, you'll probably be within a 1/16 of an inch if you're even off at all. And a lot of times that's just the width of whatever you're happening to write with, like the width of the ink pen or what have you. Okay, another thing is the depth of this cut from here to the front. Okay, this is the part that slides over, right? So it's 14.5. If you measure this, it's 14.5 inches. So you can also kind of pick and choose your height to some degree, and all right, so this mark right here is a very crude mark that I just made with a tape measure hooked on here. I marked where 14.5 inches was. And so the end of my potato plate should come somewhere around in here. And same thing on this side. And sometimes I'll do that just to kind of, eyeball where things need to be. Okay, so currently I have this propped up with a refractory brick Doesn't have to be. It can be, whatever. I just happen to have these laying around because I'm always building things that burn. So um, I did verify that this brick in the front is the same dimensions as this brick in the back, and you'll see why here in a minute. If I didn't have this brick right here, just the weight of this, it just wants to fall forward. So I would have this here anyway. So I found another one the same size, same height, and everything's laying flat. This isn't tilting forward or sideways or anything, but here's a new little trick that I'm going to try today. Let's see if it works. Okay, so you can see that I have the potato plate just resting in place. It still needs to go up, but I just wanted to see if this would even work. So you see it's resting on the refractory bricks. And it's pretty well centered up left to right. And again, we're just resting on these bricks that's supporting the stove. Now, that marker line, as I said before, we really don't even want to be higher than that at all. And if anything, we could be a little bit lower than that. So I've already measured this, but I'm going to measure it again. This will show you how much higher, well, it'll show me how much higher I need to go up. So I need to go up another 4 inches, or a little less than 4 inches from where I currently am. So yeah, so not only do you want to be level front to back, you also want to be level left to right, right to left, depending on how you're looking at the stove. And so let's say you just wanted to cut a bunch of pieces of 2x4 or whatever, just to stack this up to get it where you want it. That's fine, and that would work perfectly. But it's always nice to still have a guideline to go by, because this could even have a little bit of a bow to it. It normally doesn't happen at all, but sometimes if you start putting too much heat on it in one spot, it can happen. So it's always good to have a guideline, even though you have it setting on something. All right, so I'm going to go, and I'm thinking maybe a couple 2x4s, since a 2x4 really isn't 2x4. It's what, 1.5 inches by 3 3/4 or whatever. I'm going to go find a couple 2x4s and see if that'll raise me up where I need to be. Okay, there's a treated 2x4 resting on the refractory bricks. And I found another little piece out in the building. And it looks like it's laying out pretty close to my marks. So let's put the plate on top of that and see what we have. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. It's actually perfect, because by the time I lay a weld in there, it'll still be like below the radius of the 6-inch tube right here. So, yep, any kind of rainwater, or when you're cleaning the stove, or any kind of grease, it won't form a pocket right there. So I'm pretty happy with that. And just walk around, look at everything. Your eyes and your hands can measure way better than many conventional means, especially on something that has compound curves and all kinds of different things going on. You can also check to make sure you're square with left to right, front to back, and always double check that if you're using this method, make sure you're still sitting flat on your known flat and level surface. And again, we're just using what we have here in the garage. I didn't have to cut anything special. If you did want to cut something special, my measurement wound up being from the bottom of the stove to the underneath side of the plate is 8 3/16 inches. And of course, you can adjust that to your preference to some degree. Go up a little bit, down a little bit. If I were to make a bunch of these, which I don't intend on making a bunch of them, because Winchester Metals, they're doing just fine. That's who makes all these nice pieces available. But if I were to crank a bunch of these out, probably make up a jig, and 8 3/16 would be darn near perfect. Just cut yourself 4 or 5, maybe 6 pieces of 2-inch square tube or something for that to rest on. But again, I just did this with found items. I honestly just went out to my building to find this longer 2x4. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load up this video right now, and then I'll start another one with doing some welds and go from there. All right, you guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for hanging around. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you very soon.